So Apple about a month ago released their brand new AirPods Pro 3, and while they look kind of the same as the AirPods Pro 2, there are some drastic differences that make the AirPods Pro 3 worth it to some people. So in this video, we're going to talk about all the differences, and we're going to talk about my 1 month review using this AirPods Pro 3, but we're also going to talk about if you have the Pro 2s, should you upgrade to the Pro 3s? And if not, who should upgrade to the Pro 3s? And are the Pro 2s still a viable option today because they're still selling on Amazon and they're selling at a big, deep discount? So without further ado, let's talk about it. But now before we continue, if you do enjoy videos like this one where we kind of put Apple products head to head and compare them, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. But now let's get into the AirPods Pro and talk about all the design differences that Apple made for each of these. So let's quickly talk about the visual differences of each one of these AirPods because again, they are a little bit different, although again, from far away, they look relatively the same. To start off with the casing themselves, Apple got rid of a couple of things here. So first and foremost, you'll see that on the front side where you do open it, the LED indicator at least looks to be gone. Again, it is still there, but it's underneath the actual hardware. So it's kind of has this translucent, I guess, look to it versus when it is off on the AirPods Pro 2, you can still see that there is some sort of light indicator there that's supposed to turn on. So Apple went away with that to make it more minimal. And then on the rear, which is something I actually don't like, Apple got rid of the physical pairing button. Now it still exists, there is a touch sensitive pairing button on the inside when you do open up the AirPods Pro 3, but it makes it a little bit tougher to actually pair these things up, especially if you're using them with a non-iPhone device. Again, there probably aren't that many people using AirPods with Android phones, but it's just something that Apple got rid of to make it even harder to connect to a non-Apple device, which is a little bit annoying. But outside of that, the casings look relatively the same. You have the same speaker grills, the same USB-C port, the same lanyard port. The only thing here is that the actual case itself is a little bit bigger on the AirPods Pro 3, and that's for good reason, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then when you talk about the earbuds themselves, the earbuds also look, I guess, on face value relatively the same. Like if you do pull them out and kind of look at them side by side from far away, they look the same, but you can see that the grills have changed up a little bit and the shape has also changed up a little bit. So from a sizing standpoint, they're pretty much the same. You can see that the AirPods Pro 3 are just a little bit more angular. So the actual tip and the stock goes more towards your mouth to give you a little bit better sound quality from a mic perspective. So as I was saying, the microphones on these things are actually amazing. So what you're hearing now is the microphones from the AirPods Pro 3, and they do sound better and they're just a little bit more directionally aligned with your mouth, and the microphones just sound better overall. Again, not to say that the AirPods Pro 2 were a slouch, but these will definitely replace in some instances some of those lavalier mics, and it could replace, the point and shoot kind of run and gun microphones that people use. So overall, I think the mic quality is great. And the best way to tell is if you're having an actual phone call and conversation to see how good these are. So definitely recommend trying them out if you can. And then they also moved around those little black grills and they added one additional one to add a little bit more air ventilation going in and out when going into active noise cancellation mode. And then what I think is actually the biggest upgrade to the AirPods Pro 3 is going to be the new tips in the ear tips. So Apple's always gone with the silicone ear tip just because they're a little bit more durable, they last a little longer, they're easier to replace, and they're easy to clean especially. But Apple is able to combine both the silicone tips as well as foam tips. Now, foam tips are much better for noise cancellation from a passive standpoint because the foam contorts to your actual ear canal, whereas the silicone tips, it does to a certain extent, but it doesn't have the malleability of something like foam tips. But foam tips don't last as long, they get a little bit dirtier in my opinion, and Apple was able to give us best of both worlds with these foam tips, and I don't think they're being talked about enough. The outside of it still feels like a silicone tip, so they're easy to clean, they're easy to kind of pop it in and out of your ear, but it does have the foam material inside of it, making it much better to really seal off each side of your ears so nothing gets in or out from a noise standpoint, which does improve that active noise cancellation, albeit from a passive standpoint, but still does great from not letting any sound in. So big kudos to Apple for putting that together, and again, I don't think people are talking about those foam tips enough. And then you also in the packaging get one additional ear tip. I believe it's an extra small or something like that. But again, I just stick with the medium ones or the ones that always come on because they just fit my ears the best. And now speaking of that active noise cancellation, Apple does report that the active noise cancellation on the AirPods Pro 3 is 2 times better than the ANC of the AirPods Pro 2. And if you compare it all the way to the original AirPods Pro, it's actually 4 times better. Again, so if you're coming from the AirPods Pro 1, you'll really tell the difference. And at first when Apple gave us this claim, I wasn't 100% sure if I would be able to kind of really understand or really feel the difference, but I was definitely surprised by the differences that I saw from an active noise cancellation standpoint. It's able to cancel out so many noises, especially, of course, it's going to cancel out those reverberating ones that are constant, like an airplane engine sound or the subway, or just a noise that's constantly happening. That's relatively easy because it's easy to find where that pitch is and then cancel it out with the active noise canceling. But what I was most impressed with is with those surprise noises, those super high surprise noises, those low surprise noises that kind of come out of nowhere, the thuds, the crashes, the high alarm noises. It's still able to cancel all that out much better than the Pro 2s did from my experience. And I'm sure some of it has to do with some of those phone tips, but then again, Apple was able to then re-engineer a lot of the acoustics with them physically changing size and shape with the AirPods Pro themselves. So ANC, while I can't say it's exactly 2 times better, it is overall better, and I highly recommend testing them out in very loud environments so you can understand just how good that is. But then at the same time, from a transparency mode, I don't know what kind of magic Apple is going through or what they're doing, but transparency mode is even clearer and crisper than it ever was, and it's way better at isolating certain conversations when you are talking to somebody across the board when there is a lot of noise. And the best representation of this is talking to somebody when you're ordering something in a loud coffee shop or a restaurant or at a retail shop, when there's a lot of noise around you, but you still want to communicate with the person in front of you and elevate their volume. It has been outstanding. Now, the Pro 2s did a good job at that, but the Pro 3s do an outstanding job at that. So now, aside from the different shape of the AirPods, the new ear tip, the new foam tips, and the new 2x active noise cancellation, which is more of a software play than anything else, what other differences are there? So the big one here, from a hardware perspective, is that they did add a heart rate sensor onto the AirPods Pro 3. Now, somebody who uses an Apple Watch every single day and uses it for sleep tracking, for working out, for day-to-day use, and just overall health monitoring and tracking, I don't find too much use for the heart rate monitor in your AirPods. Again, I can see the use cases for somebody that doesn't have an Apple Watch, or maybe they just want to keep the AirPods in, but in my experience, I wear my Apple Watch more than I wear my AirPods, especially when I'm not using them. Like when I'm not actively using my AirPods, it's rare that I just have my AirPods in to track my heart rate, versus my Apple Watch when I'm mostly not actively using it, so I'm still able to track my heart rate whenever I need to, even if it is from a passive basis. So I guess it's a nice little add-on that they added on there without adding any bulk or anything extra, but at the same time, I'm not finding too much use out of it. One perk that it does give you is that it finally allows you to use things like Apple Fitness Plus with your heart rate monitor on there, so you don't need to have your Apple Watch in order to work out and get that type of data. But again, to each their own. If you already have an Apple Watch, then this heart rate monitor is just a little bit redundant. Maybe it's a little bit better for accuracy's sake, so they can kind of average out the 2 heart rates when you are using it in your health kit application. But overall, I do think it's a redundant feature if you already have an Apple Watch, but it's nice to have at the end of the day. Another huge quality of life improvement that you get out of the AirPods Pro 3 is going to be battery life. Again, Apple increased the size ever so slightly, and again, it's not that much bigger where you even can tell a difference. Like for instance, you really cannot tell a difference if you put them in your pocket, but it is ever so slightly bigger, making more room for battery. So now with active noise cancellation, we get up to 8 hours of ANC versus 6 hours, which is a big upgrade. That's about a 33% increase. Then with transparency mode, it's up to 10 hours versus 6 hours, which is a 66% increase in terms of the transparency mode battery life. And then overall, you get 24 hours of battery with both of these modes on with the battery case themselves. And Apple didn't give us the overall battery life with it just turned off completely. It's not something that I was able to test because I never use them that way. I either have it in transparency or I have them in active noise cancellation mode, but you should be able to get some good battery life overall, probably closer to the 12-hour mark if you aren't using any of the software features that come with the AirPods. So battery life was a big win for AirPods Pro this year. And then also what's nice is that with the U2 chip that's inside the AirPods Pro 3 does allow it to be found a lot easier with the precision wayfinding. So I've already lost these in my couch a couple times. I've lost these by putting them in the wrong bag by accident, and they're so much easier to find than they were before. And it's even nice you can do it also with your Apple Watch, so that's something to take note of, that the precision finding, it has a much greater range and directional accuracy versus what we had before. And I'm sure you're wondering why I haven't talked about the live translation feature quite yet, and I am going to review it in full, but overall, just know that the AirPods Pro 3 and the AirPods Pro 2 do support the live translation feature. So it's not really a differentiator between the two AirPods. They work exactly the same because we have the same type of chipset on the AirPods Pro 2 that we have on the AirPods Pro 3. So there isn't any more power or any more kind of a computer inside of the AirPods Pro 3 that the Pro 2s don't have. So the live translation, it works well. Like, it almost feels like magic. There's some delay in the translation, but again, that's expected. And I do think that it's something that Apple is going to work towards, and that's going to be their biggest differentiating factor compared to other AirPods. I know that there's other headphones out there that do it, other headphones and companies that can do the live translation. You can do it on your phone if you want to, but the ability to do that really passively without really thinking about it in your headphones has been amazing. And of course, there isn't a ton of language variations so far, but I'm sure Apple will add it as the months and years go by. I do think it's a magical feature that's going to break a lot of barriers, especially when traveling, and the barrier to entry when you are speaking in another language is now going to be completely gone as this gets better and better. So this is one of those magic moments, and I do think it's Apple's play into the AirPods just kind of living on your ear at all times whenever you do wake up. But just know that live translation works exactly the same on both of them. There is no difference in one of them being better than the other one. So at the end of the day, who should get the AirPods Pro 3, right? Again, I had the AirPods Pro Gen 2, the USB-C version. I had the latest ones. I even had the regular Lightning Pro 2s, and before that I had the Pro 1s. So if you are somebody that has the Pro 2s right now, unless you're itching to get the heart rate monitor, it might not be worth it for you. Or maybe if your battery's already getting destroyed with the AirPods Pro 2s, maybe the Lightning versions, then maybe you can go ahead and get the AirPods Pro 3. But at the end of the day, there isn't enough in my opinion. Yes, the active noise cancellation is better, but the Pro 2s already have great active noise cancellation. Now, if you have the AirPods Pro 1, or if you just have any regular AirPods, the Pro 3s are going to be a drastic upgrade. But I would also say that the Pro 3s right now, there aren't any sales going on. It's still $249 from Apple, it's $249 from Amazon. You might be able to find it for maybe $10 cheaper at Best Buy or something like that. But right now, the AirPods Pro 2, I believe, are $169 from Amazon. So that's another thing you have to consider. Is the $80 difference worth it? For instance, if you have maybe regular AirPods, or maybe the AirPods Pro 1, you could make the argument that the AirPods Pro 2 with the USB-C case at $170, if you don't need the heart rate sensor, could be a better buy for you than spending $250 on the AirPods Pro 3. But at the end of the day, both of them are great products. AirPods Pro 3 are a great upgrade to the Pro 2s, and I do recommend the AirPods Pro 3 as the best one, and it should be because that's Apple's latest and greatest. And I was just very impressed how Apple was able to give us all these great upgrades in such a small and minimal device. But that is my overall review on the Pro 3s compared to the Pro 2s and who should get which one. But that'll do for this video, everybody. If you did make it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. I'll leave this link down below, and if there are any deals for either of them, I'll also be able to kind of let you guys know with a pinned comment as well, so you guys can make the best purchasing decision possible. But that'll do it, everybody. If you want to watch more videos like this, like how the iPhone 17 is in my long-term review, click on one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone.